Association Barristers Committee for being with us to talk about their committee and for hosting all of us for lunch. So thank you guys very much. And before we learn about all the great benefits of joining this committee, I want to introduce Adam Davis and Megan Ottoboni, the co-chairs for the committee. I'll just do a quick introduction. Adam is an associate at the San Jose firm of Davis and Young, and he's involved in all aspects of the firm's employment and tort law litigation. He's been recognized as one of Northern California's super lawyer rising stars. He's a graduate of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and graduated Santa Clara Law in 2010. He's active in the local legal community and various other organizations. He's involved in the Alumni Student Connection programs at Bellarmine College Prep, and he's lectured students at Santa Clara Law, and he's now an adjunct professor at Lincoln Law. Currently, he sits on the Board of Trustees for the Santa Clara County Bar Association and is co-chair of the Barristers Committee. And Megan is an associate at the San Jose office of Greenfield Sullivan. Her litigation practice includes business, real estate, and bankruptcy litigation, as well as medical malpractice defense. And she just came off of a 2-week jury trial, so it's very exciting. While in law school, Megan received a Cali Excellence Future Award in Advanced Legal Research and Writing, and she is a graduate of Loyola Marymount and graduated Santa Clara Law in 2010 as well, and is co-chair of the committee. So without further ado, I will let you guys take it away. Thank you.
Hello, thank you guys all for coming out. No need to clap. Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. Well, as was mentioned, my name is Adam Davis, and Megan and I are the co-chairs of the Barristers Association. What the Barristers Association is it's a subsect of the Bar Association that includes lawyers that are either 35 years old or younger, or who have been practicing law for 5 years or less. So it's a pretty good place to start when you get involved in the Bar Association, and it's filled with a bunch of like people from all different aspects, all different practices. So it's not, when you get involved with the Bar Association, the subsections or the chapters underneath the umbrella of the Bar Association are typically area focused. So you have your family law section, you have your employment law section, IP section. The good thing about the barristers is it's everybody. It's just young lawyers. And what's good about that is everybody's in the same boat. It's like your first day at law school. It's a good way to meet people. It's a good way to meet people that are outside of your practice area, and it's a good introduction into the Bar Association.
So I think we're here today to try and get you guys, well, essentially give you a head start into the Santa Clara Bar Association. You don't have to be a graduate of law school. You don't have to have passed the bar to join. And we encourage you getting involved early, because then you can actually maybe meet and network with some attorneys ahead of time. I know it seems maybe early if you're in your first or second year of law school to focus on what comes after you graduate, but this is a nice resource as to maybe finding some attorneys. I know we're working on a mentorship kind of networking program through the Bar Association, so it may be of interest if you'd like to practice locally and find some attorneys that may help you on your way.
Well, and I think this is still the case. I know that when we were in law school, finding jobs was incredible. I mean, incredibly hard. The on-campus interview process was terrible. There were 13 entities that showed up. I mean, they weren't even law firms. PricewaterhouseCoopers and all these other entities that had nothing to do with law. They were hiring you for basically menial tasks. I mean, there was just nothing out there. Everything had dried up. And it had a lot to do with a couple big firms imploding and then flooding the market with a bunch of 5th, 6th, 7th year attorneys that wanted any job, really. And so because they had 5, 6 years on all of us coming out of law school, they got those entry jobs, and at a severe pay cut. So everybody was hurting. So I know that everybody knows that networking is important and you should really put yourself out there, and everybody knows that in the back of their mind, yeah, I should get out there and people should know who I am. The reason it's important, I mean, first and foremost, jobs. It's how you get jobs. Coming out of law school, like I said, at least in my experience, the OCI process was not going to help me. I started reaching out to lawyers that I had met through things like this. Oh, hey, you came and spoke at Santa Clara. Could we go out to lunch? Could you do this with, you know, could you meet with me for a second? You know, you work for a firm I'm interested in working for. I got job offers out of that because, you know, instead of being just, you know, a stack of, you know, amidst a stack of resumes, I was actually a person that they had met and a person that they, at least presumably, had connected with and thought would be a good fit for the firm. The only way that they knew that was by meeting me personally. Another way that networking helps you is just development. I would contact attorneys that were older than I was, that were working for firms I wasn't interested in joining. I'd still ask them, like, hey, you know, do you have any pointers for me? I'm trying to find a job, or, you know, what was your experience like, or what was your first, you know, year as an attorney? Because let me tell you, law school doesn't teach you much. They don't tell you that at law school. As far as how to actually do this job, you got to get out there and do it. And so that was helpful for me, you know, and it was a low-pressure situation. These people knew I wasn't hounding them for jobs. And by this time, I'd kind of been on their radar for 2-3 years. So that's the second reason that it's important. And then the third is just kind of injecting yourself into this community. You know, you went to law school for a reason. You know, I know that, you know, you probably find the work stimulating, or you're really impassioned about a certain area of law, or, you know the money can be pretty good. But above and beyond all of that, if you don't take the opportunity to inject yourself into the community of lawyers, you're really missing out on probably what is half the benefit of being a lawyer. Being out there, and like when I go to court, I know it's the same for Megan. You run into people that we know from bar association events or things like this, and you stop and you talk to them for 30 seconds. It's not to get a job. It's not to get any sort of insight. It's just running into people that you know. Makes you feel like you're a part of the county, a part of the community. People know who you are. I just got a couple calls earlier this week, case referrals from people that are like, oh, Adam does employment. This person has a question. They were just laid off, and what are the issues here? Or we're looking to lay someone off. How do we do that legally? And it all stems from injecting yourself in that community, telling people what you do, what you're interested in, how you can potentially help them, maybe how they can help you. I refer cases all the time. Friends come to me, hey, I'm starting with a business. I have absolutely no money. I don't know how to do this short of going to a mega firm that's going to, have a $30,000 retainer, which I obviously don't have. I'm starting a business. I know a couple people that do start small businesses, and they've got different payment plans because of that money issue at the beginning. They repay the favor. It's great, and it's a part of this growing community. So, the Bar Association is not the only way, but it's definitely, at least in Santa Clara County or any county that you're going to go into, it's kind of the main connection between everybody, because there's other groups out there, like say the Trial Lawyers Association, which is also here in Santa Clara. It's mostly plaintiffs' attorneys. So if you're not a plaintiff's attorney and you're in this plaintiff's attorney group, I don't know what they do to defense attorneys behind closed doors, but it's not nice, no. But the Bar Association is everybody. It's plaintiffs, it's transactional, it's litigators, defense. So it's a great way to start. It's a great way to get yourself out there. Joining committees within the Bar Association is also good because it narrows the scope. Now you know people in the Bar Association. Now you know the family lawyers in the Bar Association, or the IP lawyers.
So if you guys have questions about how we got our jobs, you can ask them now, or do you want us just to give you a brief overview of how we ended up where we are today? Any preference? Okay. So I, like Adam, found little value in the OCI process, and I decided that I was going to start working my third year of law school because I wanted to actually, try this job that I'm trying to, take a big test to become a lawyer, like figure out what aspects of the law I liked. So I worked my third year at a family law firm because I thought family law was something I was interested in. And through that, I became friends with the associates I was working for. And I knew that the firm was small and maybe wouldn't have a job for me. And I also came to the fact that family law wasn't really my cup of tea. But in the process, I did a lot of networking with these young associates. Hey, I don't know if I'm going to stick here after the bar, but if you know someone in a small firm, or if you know someone in the area who may need a clerk or anything, let me know. They reached out to their friends, and during law school, I also reached out to a couple older attorneys I knew, older meaning partners at some firms in the area because my father was an attorney. And I met them for lunch, and it was kind of like Adam was saying, no pressure, no, I want a job, hire me now. It was more, hey, keep me in mind if you have a project or document review. I was into litigation. I'll totally come work by the hour, no frills, no nothing, just let me know. And I ended up getting my job because one of those partners called me and said, we have a big doc review project. We need an extra set of hands. Can you come down? Sure. Went down the next day, and I have not left my office since. It's a rarity, but you know, part of I think why maybe I'm still there is I really injected myself. Once I kind of got my foot in the door, I found out how to get my other foot and then my arm, and then, hey, do you need help on that project? I'm almost done with this document review project, but I can do research while I'm in my free time. And I think for me, and having had a couple summer associates now work in our office, I've learned that the more they come to me and say, hey, do you need help with anything, the more they seem interested, the more I will give them and the more experience you will get. And I think you can parallel this to the Bar Association. It's what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you guys have any opportunities to even work small jobs for solo practitioners or anything, give it your all. I know you're busy with school, but I really would say just keep asking for more work. I mean, don't overload your plate so you can't get stuff done, but I think the best thing for, at least now what I see, is when people really put themselves out there, and don't be afraid to ask if you don't know how to do a project, but just kind of try and find that hole, especially in this job market. Find that connection and just really apply yourself, and maybe you'll stick around kind of like I did. Other than that, networking to me I think was the most important. I knew I wanted to work in San Jose area. I've grown up here, so I kind of focused my attention towards the smaller firms. I wasn't a big firm type of attorney, and that's never where I really wanted to end up. So I think if you're going for a smaller route, really start your networking now and try and make connections like Adam said, because I really think that's how you will find yourself a job in a job you probably will like.
Well, yeah, just dovetailing off that, keep an open mind. I mean, like Megan mentioned, she thought she was going to be a family law attorney, now she's a civil litigator. For me, I was kind of big firm all the way, from first through, I don't know, halfway, maybe 3/4 through my third year. Through this networking, I had 2 job offers, two in LA, 1 in Palo Alto. And it was just the greatest thing ever, because these are the firms I wanted to work for, and it's totally great, and you know. But I actually was able to call 2 associates at the firms down south, ask them how their lives were, and it was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. And they really outlined to me how, to them, it wasn't really worth it, but now they're stuck, because now they've got, you know, a kid. And I'm not saying that this is true for all big firms. I'm saying that I talked these particular firms, and not even the firms, these particular people were saying, you know, yeah.
Which firms were these?
Well, 2 down south and 1 in Palo Alto. But in any event, they these associates were really just felt kind of trapped, you know. And they said that maybe it was because of their choices, maybe not. They just didn't feel like even law was for them anymore. So then I started thinking, well, okay, I'm not sure if this is it for me anymore. I don't know if I can handle that sort of lifestyle. I don't know if even that's true. Whatever it was, I just started thinking, well, maybe I need to start looking elsewhere. Now what am I going to do? Because there were no OCIs available. You know, I'm not, at this point, you know, the other bigger firms were hiring from their summer program, and I didn't know what to do. I ended up working with my dad, who's been a litigator here for a while, and I absolutely, first of all, I love the work. And then secondly, as far as growth process and exposure to what it's actually like to be a lawyer, I've been getting that since day one. And I've absolutely loved it and have no intentions of leaving. I mean, and you know, my entire mind was switched, not just by these conversations with these attorneys, but then kind of taking real inventory of what it was that I wanted out of this career. Why did I go to law school in the first place? What do I expect from myself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And I felt that this was the way to go. And I remember telling people the first year of law school, okay, if I end up working with my dad, you know I failed. You know I failed, because it's the fallback of all fallbacks. I really don't want to do this. It's exactly what I ended up doing, and it was my choice. I loved it. I think the main takeaway though is just keep an open mind. Just go through, network. You don't know what's going to happen out. Maybe nothing comes of it, but in all likelihood, something will. Get out there, learn a little bit about this profession. What is it that you want from this profession? And then just go down that path. And don't worry about anything else that you hear other people saying that you should do, because it's just not true. The one thing I have learned since graduating is this is such an individual career. It really is individualized. I mean, if you want to be rich, well, I know big firm lawyers that are not rich, and I know solo practitioners that I own a couple mansions. I know everything, and I know the opposite is true. I know big firm lawyers that are killing it. I know small firm lawyers that just don't know where the next case is coming from. So there's no road map. There's no path map. It really is something that you just need to figure out yourself. And the best way to do that, especially coming out of law school, is just figuring it out from other people.
Yeah.
What are other people's, what are their experiences, what are their little gems of advice, and take the ones that you agree with or that you believe in, and then just internalize it and move on. Because now you just gained a whole wealth of experience that took somebody else a couple months to learn. And in the meantime, that might even give you a job. So, I can't stress it enough. For all sorts of reasons, joining the Bar Association is great. The barristers in particular, because it's your first step in there. We're all in the same boat together. And then just beyond that, just getting involved in the community, becoming a lawyer in the true sense of it, as opposed to just doing your job, going to and from work, and maybe hanging out with your coworkers, or maybe an opposing counsel that you have a case with. If you're fully in it, it's enjoyable. It really is. It makes the whole profession extra rewarding. So.
I think you guys touched on a really good point about how as first years you're just inundated with all the big firms in your face, and this is the way to be successful. And you guys bring up a great point that, in the Bay Area there are hundreds and hundreds of smaller firms that people don't really know about, and you don't know how to tap into that. And I think the Bar Association is a great way, because you get representatives from so many small to medium-sized local firms, and they don't always post their jobs.
No, we don't. We don't have any jobs right
We
now,
don't
but.
have a hiring season. There's no hiring
No,
season.
it's kind of when we have extra cases and need work, is when we kind of start looking, so.
If somebody has the idea that they would like to tap into the smaller firm market, would you suggest that working during your third year would be the way to go?
For me, my schedule permitted it. I know it can be a lot, especially if you're trying to psych yourself up for the bar and studying for the bar. It's a lot on your plate. So in the firm I worked for, they understood that I was going to school, so my schedule was nice enough that I had class essentially Tuesday and Thursdays, and then I'd work Monday, Wednesday, half day Friday. I worked with them to have a schedule that was efficient, and I was able to really get work done for them. But I liked the experience I got. I think it was helpful to me when I was hired. Oh, we need doc review. It was like, oh, I know what doc review is. I know what I'm going to be looking for. I know how to do a privilege log. I kind of felt like I had a step ahead just because I had learned some of these skills. I had gone to court. I knew what motions were, how to draft them. And while I do think you hear the language, sometimes there isn't really a practical class that lets you see, like, here's how you meet and confer on a discovery issue.
Yeah.
So.
I wouldn't say it's the way. I would say it's a way. I worked for a judge, so I wasn't trying to get a job out of it or anything. My main thing was just calling people, following up. If I saw a presentation that I liked, I emailed the lawyer. If I was in this real estate development class and we had to go, this actually turned into a job for me. We had to go to the firm of one of these practicing lawyers, real estate lawyers, and negotiate a deal with them. Lost terribly. But anyway, but I followed up with him. Hey, it was really nice meeting you. Got some questions just about the legal field in general. I'm sort of interested in real estate. I'm not sure what that is. Can we meet for lunch? And that was it. Just because I had met him once. And lawyers love that stuff. And if they don't respond, so what? It's as if you didn't send it in the first place. The one thing that I get when I tell people that do this, to just basically cold call attorney. Everybody's like, well, you know, I don't want to seem too pushy. I really don't want to seem over anxious. Why? I mean, I've never understood that. Why? I mean, the worst that can happen is the lawyer says, no, we're not interested, or doesn't return your email. Not a very big deal though. I mean, because you're just right where you started. And if it's really not that important, they're not going to remember you. It's not like they're going to see you in court 5 years from now and be like, oh, that's the guy that sent me one email 5 years ago. You know, it's like, I mean, it's worth it, and it really pays dividends, even if it's not a job. It's for all the other reasons I stated. It's really, really worth it.
All right, any questions?
Yeah. Well, actually, I just want to say I graduated in May, but I just want to say that that's the one thing, if I could do law school over again, because I would start building my network first year, maybe second semester, get first semester's finals out of the way possibly, but that's probably equally as important as a strong GPA, is having a big network, just from the people I've known, as far as finding employment, that's really important. And like you guys are saying, people are really receptive, especially at networking events. Like, it does not come across as too pushy to go up, introduce yourself to people, tell them your situation. So.
Well, in a lot of cases, people are glad that you're the one that said something first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you walk into a networking thing and, I don't know, 95% of the people aren't sure they really want to be there. It's totally awkward. They don't know what they're going to say, and they hang out in the corner with the 2-3 people they knew way back in the day. So, but, you know, if somebody walks up, like, hey, how's it going? I'm so-and-so, which at networking events, I mean, that's not weird. It's weird pretty much everywhere else, but it's not weird at networking events. You know, you walk up, you look at someone's name tag, you go, oh, hey, how's it going? That's why they're there. That's why people are there. People are so relieved that you're the one that came forward and actually said something, you know.
To segue off that, the barristers, we really are more of the like social committee at the Bar Association. So if you're wondering like, well, where do I just show up to this attorney network? Join the Bar Association and you'll get email blasts that say, we did one at the Brit this year. We'll have a winter formal coming up in December. And we just actually, gosh, 2 weeks ago, we also did one with the Cal CPAs. So we went out of the lawyer world and hung out with some CPAs, which is kind of nice because it was young, you know, professionals essentially. And the more you network, you know, they may have a friend that works at a law firm, even though they're just, you know, they're an accountant. So.
And then also, just really quickly, when you were saying that your network's as strong as your GPA, I knew a girl in law school who had, you know, average grades, wasn't good, wasn't bad. I got a call from a co-defense counsel up in Walnut Creek, called me and goes, hey, do you know this person? She went to Santa Clara, seems that she graduated in and around when you were there. Like, yeah, actually, I know her pretty well. All right, well, should we hire her, or? That was it. That was it. I mean, I know that he got a lot of resumes for that job because jobs are scarce. There's no way that she was the most impressive resume. There's just no way. She hasn't gotten a legal job yet. You know, the average grades at best. You know, and she got hired. She got hired because, you know, coming from a personal personal reference, just saying, yeah, you know, grades are one thing, but you know, you're not going to have to worry about her with clients. You're not going to have to worry about her in deposition saying something crazy on the record, and, which happens. Oh my God, it happens. But you know, you don't have to worry about that. And you're right. It's just like a really good GPA, if not more important. So, yeah.
I had a two-part question. I think that you actually just answered part of it. Part one was what kind of events does the association put on? And I heard you talk about networking events. And part B of that question was, is it okay for people who are not attorneys, like for example, people in our position, to come to those, or would that be odd, or is that okay?
We did a pure barristers mixer at the Brit in the beginning of the year, I think. No, we did one last October.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If this will happen, your schedule will just smush into one ball, but there were a few actually students that I met from here and at Lincoln that showed up and were like, hey, we just wanted to come, you know, meet people. And it's not weird. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm like, ooh, who's your teacher? Oh, I had him, you know, so I love when I see, you know, people that aren't lawyers.
Exactly. I joined the Barristers when I was in law school, I think my second year. And I showed up and I was the only law student. But I still showed up to the meetings. I mean, not even just the networking events, but the actual meetings. And it was great, because now I'm the co-chair. The people that were in the committee with me have moved on from the committee and become chairman of other committees. And, you know, it's really interesting to see them at Judges Night. There's twice a year, the Bar Association, the Bar Association once a year and the Trial Lawyers Association once a year throw this huge event at the Fairmont Hotel. It's called Judges Night. And it's this big banquet. It costs a ton of money to go that your firm pays for. And it's so fun to go there because, you know these older attorneys, you know these younger attorneys, whatever. Anyway, to answer your question, you can join right now. You can show up to the events. You can show up to the meetings. And I would suggest doing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many meetings do you guys have a year? Is it just every month?
6 every other month.
Yeah, so 6 a year.
Oh, okay.
We
Used
have
to
one
be
on
every
Thursday.
month, but yeah, everybody's so busy. Yeah.
You had a question, right?
Yeah, and maybe you can speak to this. How would you suggest in terms of making a network if you're working at a firm and you discover that that's not necessarily a practice area you want to go into, but part of the reason why you're there and at that firm is to develop relationships with the associates and the partners, communicating that in a delicate way to the associates that you really like working there, but you're not necessarily interested in working in that practice area, and perhaps developing some sort of conversation that might lead them to point you in the right direction. Say, I'm not interested in family law, but I'm really interested in estate planning components that affect this practice. Could you suggest like another firm? How do you start that conversation?
Are you talking about bringing up this conversation before you're set to leave the firm?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to develop that relationship with them, but you also don't want to talk down on their practice
Yeah.
or say anything negative about
I mean,
it.
the way you just brought it up is pretty appropriate. I mean, I'm all for, when I was at that family law place, I realized it was just a little too much conflict and not enough resolution for me. So I knew I liked the litigation aspect, and I told them, I said, this has been really informative. I really appreciate and understand what you guys do and like the need for it, but I just don't think I can do it. And I'm wondering if you have any, if you know any other litigators. I like the litigation aspect, and there are times when we had to use outside counsel for property valuations or other things that, the lawyers themselves will have a network. And I'm sure if you guys have worked in some, or where you're working, if they have an estate planning element or people they know, I'm sure they'd be happy to pass your name along. I don't think it's a slam to your employer to say, I don't like what you're doing. Because there's a lot of the law, like there are a lot of aspects of the law where I'd be like, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. So,
Yeah, I think
so people get it. I mean, it's not going to be offensive, so long as you're not like, this is terrible.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Instead of standing up here and giving you like, okay, verbatim, say this, because then you're going to mess it all up and it's going to come out, I hate this job, or something. You're just going to bump. But I think the main thing to keep in the back of your mind is don't make them feel like what they've chosen to do was wrong, or somehow substandard. Because it's possible for people to take it that way, and I think that's what your concern is. In the back of your mind, if you just give it a couple minutes and just think, okay, if I was in their position, I'm totally passionate about this area of law, I'm loving my job, and I'm excited about this associate. How would I want that associate to basically tell me, I'm interested in kind of exploring other options within the law, and I'm really interested in this, but I think it's time for me to look in other areas. However you say it, in the back of your mind, just be like, okay, just make sure you don't denigrate whatever it is they've built for themselves. And then however that comes out, it will come out respectfully, trust me. It'll come out the way it's supposed to come out.
I'm kind of curious about that, something that someone over there said, I didn't see exactly who it was, but they were saying about second semester, so first year is about when you really need to start getting your networking game together. Would you agree with that? Because I'm kind of comfortable feeling like, it's first semester, first year law, I gotta hit the books and focus on that, but is there a point where I need to look at myself and be like,
I didn't really start myself until the summer between first and second year. You know, and the only reason I did then was because I was trying to get a summer job. You know, and again, nobody had come for OCIs, at least not for first years. So it was kind of tough to find a job out there. So that's when I started. I don't think there's a given time. I just think earlier is better, but it doesn't mean that you've now lost ground and you're never going to be able to make it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the key is just eventually putting yourself in that position.
So you would say, if you could do it over again, maybe you would have started just a little before summer, so that you could actually get into those?
Me personally, I found that, that for me, the summer was fine. I met a ton of people in the summer. I worked for a judge in Santa Clara County, so a bunch of people were appearing before the judge. And it was discovery matters, so you'll learn that if you're ever in discovery court, it's bad. It means that you guys aren't communicating. You've actually got to go to court. And my judge was exclusively involved with that, so it was actually super entertaining. But if I saw a good argument from a lawyer, I noted who that lawyer was and I gave him one of those emails. You know, and I met a ton of people that way. It's not the only way, but you know, I just think that if you do it before you graduate, it's really good. And if you're able to do it earlier rather than later, then great, because it gives people more time to cultivate a relationship with you, know who you are for a substantial amount of time. And that's what I would say, is just do it eventually.
To go off that, I think another untapped resource that people sometimes don't look at are your own teachers. If you have had a teacher that you've connected with, you feel like they've been a great professor, chances are they may know some other people in the legal field practicing that may need a summer intern or a research assistant. I was a research assistant for my criminal law teacher my second year. And part of that was to see if I liked criminal law, and I didn't like the criminal law aspect. But I think teachers are a really good reference point. I think they know a lot of people, and I think they're always looking to help out their students. I also think your own classmates, how I got my job at that family law firm was one of my friends in my section was moving to a different firm and said, hey, I know you're interested in family law, want to take my position? I don't know if they'll hire you, but I'm going to tell my boss you're looking. So, you know, I know we've talked about reaching out to other attorneys, but reach out among your friends. They may have jobs or may know of jobs, and your teachers, I think, are especially important because they eventually probably will become one of your references, and they may know someone to be able to put in the work for you.
Thank you.
Apart from joining and attending events at SCCBA, can law students get involved in organizing events, assisting you guys with something, you know, like a pro bono or a volunteer opportunity?
I'm sorry, what was the last part of that? But without joining?
For example, a pro bono or a volunteer opportunity for law students at SCCBA, you know, to organize events or otherwise get involved.
You know, I've never heard of that. But I mean, that's something that I can follow up on because I've never seen it, but I know that they put together these huge events like Judges Night. It's literally every attorney in San Jose that can make it goes. I really, every single age. It's amazing. And then all the judges, because it's, you know, it's Judges Night, so they're all there. So, but things like that, there's no way that they would turn away. At least I would imagine. I don't think they'd turn away any help. So, is that what you were saying? Just helping out, that sort of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other events too. I know that there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of food kitchen involvement, or Second Harvest Food Bank is big. We do that every year. And just organizing that, you know, that's something that is something we should follow up on that. So,
I have a question. If, you know, you're getting into spring semester as a first year or second year, and you're, you know, sending out some of these emails to, you know, whether it be partners or associates at some of the smaller firms with the idea, you know, it's time to start thinking about what I'm going to do over the summer. Am I going to, you know, I want to clerk in a small firm. Do you think the approach should be, in those emails, should be requesting, you know, lunch or a coffee or something with those individual attorneys, or should it just be a very clear, I'm looking for a clerk position, I'd like to see what's available at your firm, you know,
Yeah.
what's the approach that you think would be helpful to take?
There's a couple approaches. Mine personally, I never wanted to have the first step be, hey, I'm looking for a job, you want to meet with me? I never wanted that. I wanted it to be like, no, I kind of want to meet this person, because there were some times where I thought I really liked the firm, I thought I really liked the lawyer, and halfway through lunch, I'd be like, I can never do this, you know? So like, all right, anyway, see you later. Because you're choosing them as much as they're choosing you, even though at this point, you know, it's kind of a buyer's market for them. But still, I never wanted it to be misconstrued as, like, if I were to be really kind to a lawyer, I never wanted it to be misconstrued as me just kissing up to them, wanting a job. Hey, you know, like, hey, oh, you're so impressive. You know, like, oh my gosh, I went to San Diego, oh my gosh, you know, like, people do that. And it's like, that is not the way to network, at least in my mind. You meet people like head on, and then you just figure out for yourself if that's actually even what you want.
Yeah.
So as far as the emails go, I would just say, I'm interested in that type of law. I understand that you do that type of law, and based on your experience, you know, or how long you've been doing it, I'm interested in talking with you about it. And then maybe I always made a point to bring up the job issue, second or third lunch or communication. Or if I knew I wasn't going to meet them again, I'd wait a couple days. Well, first I'd send an email thanking them for lunch, whatever. And like 2 days later, I'd send another email saying, hey, I'm also looking for a job. I know that you're in real estate. I'm wondering if you know anybody who's hiring for the summer. And a couple times they're like, well, we are, you know. And mostly though, especially in the economy that I was going to law school in, it was like, well, we aren't, and I don't know anybody, you know. Like, or you can, how about this? Contact this firm. Tell him this little inside joke that he and I have, and you're in. And you contact that guy and go, oh yeah, that joke's funny, we're also not hiring. You know, like, that's totally fine. And it's totally fine. The way I got my LA jobs was basically just that. Got in contact with a family friend of a lawyer that I knew up here who practiced in Santa Barbara in trying to get these jobs down south. You know, I'm in contact with this conduit attorney, I guess, you know, in Santa Barbara for like 8 months, and then it just kind of, when I decided not to go down south, it just kind of, you know, disappeared, and we talk every so often, but, you know, anyway.
Well, just, I mean, and not to be cynical, but I think a lot of times if I get an email, I kind of know they probably just don't want to take me out for a latte. Like, they kind of want to know what's going on in the job market. So, but I prefer like a personal interaction. I think for me, and being in a small firm, like Adam's saying, it's kind of nice to see when you meet with people like, oh, they could be a fit, or, you know, just when I have more personal experience with someone, I think I can give a better recommendation for them in the long run, not just like email correspondence or a telephone call.
Oh, one thing I never mention this, and I always kick myself for not mentioning it. Lawyers are real people. Go figure. They're real people. They can see through things. You know, I got a phone call from a mid-sized firm. This lawyer that I know that does employment defense, she calls me and she goes, hey, do you know this person? Sure enough, it was someone that I went to law school with. Yeah. Let me read you this email. Hello, so-and-so. I see that we have both graduated Santa Clara University School of Law. Blah, blah, blah. And it was super formal. She goes, I'm not responding to this. And I'm like, okay, I'll just tell her that you didn't get it or something. You know, I don't know. The point is that not to be informal, but watch being too formal. Because then it's like, oh God, this person really does want a job. If it's just like, hey, here's my little blurb. I just want to meet you. I just want to know about this law, this area of law. I'm a second year. I'm a third year. You know, can you meet with me for a couple minutes? I really appreciate it. I know your time is valuable. I look forward to hearing from you, period. They'll respond to that because it's like, wow, a real person. You know, like a real person wants, and in the back of their mind, I know that, you know, yeah, maybe it is cynical. They know you're eventually going to ask for a job, either from them or one of their friends. If they're thinking, you know, this is a real person and they just might be a fit for our firm, it's better than being like, oh great, here's this, you know, potential robot paper pusher that is going to completely bore everybody and just be doing doctor for a decade and a half. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what, you know, that's an important piece of advice, I would say.
Another suggestion I would have, because it happened to our firm, we received, I think it was USF, 2 letters from 2 different students at USF that had clearly just taken the cover letter sample that their law school career services had given them, and it was like, you could hold it up to the light, and the wording was exactly the same, maybe don't do that. Because I found it hilarious,
Same type
as
of-
did our boss, like, posted it on, like, here's what not to do if you want to find a job.
I think that, there's something back here.
Oh.
Just real quick question. Sorry. I did it
Go
again,
Max,
didn't
you're
I?
on.
Okay, I have it then. The couple of times that I have gone out with lawyers for lunch, they always insist on paying for the lunch. Is it still, common practice in this email when I reach out to another lawyer to say, can I take you out for a lunch or a
Sure.
latte or something?
Yeah, they'll still pay for it.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
yeah,
Coffee's on you.
you know,
yeah.
Can't necessarily make good on that promise most of the time.
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else. You pull out your wallet anyway. If they want to split it, be prepared to split it, or be prepared to pay for it. They're not gonna make you pay for it though. So, especially as a student. And if they do, maybe you don't want to work for them. Just kidding.
I just have a question about the first year summer job and how important that is, because, from what I've heard, a lot of them are unpaid. Money's obviously an issue for students. I have an opportunity to work somewhere completely different and make money, not in the legal field. So, how important is it to get experience your very first summer? I know it's important. I acknowledge that it's important to get as much experience as possible. But is there anything you can say about that?
It was important for me to work in the legal field just because I felt like employers will look at your resume and kind of see what you've done. I worked doing estate planning my first summer. I also was I came to law school, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wasn't sure what type yet. So you can tell I've worked in different fields, but part of my goal during law school was, I am a student, I think I should give myself as much experience in other areas of the law as I can. It's kind of, I understand like the money aspect, but I felt like for me it was valuable having worked a summer doing transactional work, because I realized, no, I want to go to litigation. And I do think when we see resumes or review resumes, we always do look at what type of legal experience you have. And I mean, I know you know that, but I would recommend maybe
Yeah.
trying to just get as much legal, because like we were talking about, much real world outside experience in the law. Even if it's not what you end up doing, it's a good resume builder.
Yeah, it's kind of like anything else. I mean, if you have it, then that's better, and it puts you in a better position. If you don't have it, that doesn't mean you're going to be absolutely passed up for a job. I remember in one of the summers, it might have been my first summer, because I was working for the judge, but the judge was like 3 days a week or something like that. I also did NCIP, which is on campus. That was, because it was a summer course, really elongated, didn't require a lot of my time. So my resume looked like, oh, I did NCIP, and it's totally true, and I did do work. But, I mean, it is what I did that summer, but I was able to go out and make money elsewhere. I was a caterer as well, which is what I did for money. So I think it's important to have something to put on your resume, like you did something. Like, what'd you do this summer? If it's not legal, did you do something? And I think that's probably the most important, is just having something that you did.
Anything else?
Any other questions, guys?
Well, thank you
Right.
guys for coming.